I have now the honor to give the floor to Ambassador Steffen Kongstad, Ambassador here at the Permanent Mission of Norway to the United Nations. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Norway is of the view that we need to invest more in reducing the risk of disasters, and we see the global platform as a vital means to this end. Efforts to promote disaster risk reduction and resilience are improving at all levels. There is a momentum for change from seeing disasters as one-off events to recognizing preparedness and prevention as necessary investments. The Hyogo Framework for Action has been instrumental in this regard. Still, there is evidence that disaster risk due to exposure to natural hazards and the effects of climate change is increasing. People and assets are increasingly located in high-risk areas. A recent World Bank report paints an alarming picture of the future, describing impacts of a 4-degree temperature increase. To avoid this scenario, we must succeed with rapid and significant cuts in greenhouse gas emissions. The report states that the poorest regions in the world will experience the greatest climatic changes and the most serious impacts. We need to further strengthen our efforts to reduce vulnerability to and the consequences of future extreme events, slow onset disasters, and protracted crises. The special report on extreme events by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change demonstrates how closer integration of disaster risk management and climate change adaptation could provide benefits at all scales. The various organizations and frameworks must be brought together to address the changing risks associated with climate change. While the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change provides a normative and strategic framework for parties' actions, solutions must also be found outside the Convention. The experiences of disaster risk reduction actors should be brought into the climate arena to inform the decisions made under the UN Framework Convention for Climate Change. And this is why Norway and the UNISDR held a consultative event this week with stakeholders working in the areas of CCA and DRR. UNISDR will play an important role in the process of formulating the post-2015 Framework for Action. And we expect ISDR to take a more proactive role in highlighting the links between disaster risk management, climate change adaptation, and sustainable development. And Norway would like to emphasize the following priorities for the post-2015 framework. Firstly, we favor a simple and operational framework that can guide member states and local communities in implementing a hands-on approach to disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. And the framework should include measurable goals and concrete targets over certain time spans. Secondly, involving a broader group of stakeholders and innovative alliances in DRR and CCA should be encouraged at national and local levels. It is crucial to recognize the role of women. The private sector, civil society, academia, and students should be given more space as we move forward. The media also has a key role to play in promoting accountability. Thirdly, the engagement of broad stakeholder groups must be reflected in the commitments made by member states and regional, national, and local authorities to establish institutional frameworks. The effective development and implementation of DRR require political engagement as well as administrative, legal, and institutional frameworks. Member states have the responsibility to ensure the safety and well-being of their citizens and to enable local authorities to take responsibility. Fourthly, the framework should address the use of research and knowledge in risk and vulnerability assessments. Knowledge about natural hazards and climate change impacts globally must be combined with local knowledge and made available to decision makers. And the WMO's Global Framework for Climate Services is an important and useful tool in this regard. And Norway supports the aim of gathering reliable climate and weather information and translating it into adapted end-user information. And a final priority is to recognize the need to increase investments in capacity building at the national level. The emphasis should be on the people and organizations responsible for disaster management and climate change adaptation. And Norway is involved in ongoing cooperation with Vietnam, Bangladesh, and Myanmar on capacity building for improved meteorological services. And it cooperates with Niger and Ethiopia on food security, and with Afghanistan and Cuba on capacity building for preparedness. And Norway also benefits from such cooperation. So we look forward to working together to build resilient societies that are able to respond to risk and that prepare for the future in a proactive and forceful manner. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your speech.